This is an intro. Who needs an intro? I don't need an intro. This is just a vape show. It's just a vape show. Vape show. This is an intro. Who needs an intro? I don't need an intro. This is just a vape show. It's just a vape show. Vape show.
YouTube, what is up? I'm your homeboy Josh, back at you, and today we're taking a look at the Skywalker RDA from Unification of Design. Unification of Design was kind enough to send this on over and make a donation to the channel in exchange for pushing it on up to the front of the line. It won't affect my opinion of the product in any way. The release of this RDA comes right on the heels of the release of the trailer for The Last Jedi, the latest Star Wars film. I can't help but think that there's kind of a wink and a nod at that from Yude. Definitely seems to coincide quite nicely. And the Skywalker RDA is written in like the Star Wars kind of font, the boxy sort of lettering that Star Wars had, and it's got these two lightsabers crisscrossing. I mean, they look a lot like lightsabers to me, crisscrossing the S for Skywalker. So there's definitely something going on there. Pop open the box, you got a bit of a manual. You've also got a warranty card and your RDA. Underneath the RDA, you have a baggie of extras. Some extra screws, some extra O-rings, a squonk pin, which is pretty nice, and you also have a pair of fuse Clapton coils, which is what we threw on in here, just the pair of fuse Claptons that it came with, but more on that in a bit. The RDA itself has the same logo that was on the box, the same S with the wings and the two lightsabers crisscrossing it like a crest, and it says Skywalker RDA underneath that in the same font. I've got it sitting on top of the drag box mod from Voopoo. It comes with a metal drip tip. I've never been the biggest fan of metal drip tips, but to be honest, this one I actually kind of like. It's got a nice wide bore to it. It's not the widest bore out there, but it's not the thinnest either. And the bottom side of the drip tip is actually pretty cool. It's got sort of a conical shape built into the drip tip itself. So what happens there is the conical shape from the drip tip extends the conical shape of the ultem inner airflow adjustment, which is kind of cool. You know, sometimes I feel like that can affect the flavor with certain things. I don't get that so much with this RDA. It does a pretty good job at preserving the flavor even though the airflow adjustment is made of ultem. But the conical shape at the bottom end of the drip tip is basically a continuation of the conical shape of the inner airflow sleeve, the ultem airflow sleeve, which is definitely an RDA that's putting an emphasis on flavor reproduction. The airflow adjustment, I have to say, is wonderful. It moves super smoothly out of the box and it's really easy to grip. One thing I also really like about the airflow adjustment at the top, the way that it's done, is that, you know, there's a grippiness on one side and on the other side, right? But there's also this flat section on one side and on the other on it. The dual airflow holes on the inner airflow sleeve correspond with those two cutaways. So you can sort of treat that as an indicator and look at that in relation to the airflow holes to know how much air is open, which I think is kind of neat. And what's also really nice is it has a single airflow option. If you're one of those single coilers and you only want single airflow, you have that option here, which is really, really nice. One thing that does concern me, it's still a bit thin, and the bottom end of these airflow holes are actually really, really skinny. It's really thin, and it's especially thin around that airflow adjustment. Like, I would worry about breaking these. Like, I feel like I'm pressing on it like this, and it does have some flex to it. Like, if I really wanted to, I could crush this with just like this. I really could. In fact, Yude actually did take the time to write me and wanted me to explain that it's important that you place the outer airflow sleeve, the outer barrel, onto the deck before you put this in, this airflow sleeve in, because if you don't, you risk damaging this ultem inner airflow adjustment sleeve. Always put this outer barrel down onto the deck, like so, and then put this in there. The reason this is so important is that there's nothing to stop this from going down deeper. This can go as far down all the way into there, even though it's not supposed to. There's nothing for it to latch onto to stop it from going in there. And then you've basically got to push it back out like this to prevent breaking it when you put it down the deck. I feel like that could have been done better. There should have been some bit of ultem sticking out from the top over the outer airflow sleeve, or something in the inner airflow sleeve that had sort of a level to it where this would actually stop when placing it in there. You know, it wouldn't be a problem anymore. As it is right now, if you take this off, see, I just went to put the drip tip in and just push this on in there, and now I've got to fish it back out again, which is really kind of annoying. So assembling this is deck, outer airflow sleeve, then the inner airflow sleeve with the drip tip. The deck is a 2-post deck, very similar, if you ask me, to the Skill RDA. It has those sort of exposed screws and it looks really cool. I like the deck as a 2-post. I think it functions very well there. There's plenty of space to build. There's plenty of room for your wick, plenty of room for pretty much any kind of build you want. When this thing came in, it came with 2 fused Clapton coils. I put an extra wrap in each Clapton coil so it would fit on the deck a little bit nicer. I didn't want to have to sort of bend the leads inward or the coil over compress it inward in order for it to sit right. I just decided to add, you know, a wrap to each one that sat in there very, very nicely. But I think everything on the deck is really well made. It's very clean. Once you loosen up the screws the first time, they open very freely and you kind of open them up with your bare hands. Closing them down on the leads and whatnot, you're definitely going to want to use a screwdriver. It's not meant to be something that you could build with just your fingers, but it's kind of nice. It's satisfying being able to open up those screws with your fingers like that. It works very well. They're very smooth. The thing about decks like this where the screws are exposed, I've never been a huge fan of them. I feel like they just lend themselves to cross threading really easily. In general, they do. And this does too. It can cross thread if you're not careful. However, the threading is good enough that you can kind of feel it where it's giving you a bit of restriction before it cross threads. So really just be careful of that. If you feel a bit of restriction on the screws, back it out. Don't push further and you're fine. If the screws were enclosed a bit more, it wouldn't be an issue at all. So I have mixed feelings about decks like this where the screws are exposed. I feel like this one was done better than most. In the past, I've been way more worried about cross-threading than I was here. With this one, I felt like I got ample warning when it was starting to go the wrong way and was able to correct it pretty easily. For looks, man, it's sexy as hell with the deck like that though. Those exposed screws, super sexy. again. I put the thing down before. I keep forgetting to do it. It's a good vape though. It's tasty. It's got a good amount of flavor. It's got a good bit of cloud production too. Here it is all the way open. The build, by the way, is I'm firing it at 100 watts. It's a 0.18 ohm build. It has the potential to be good and cloudy, but you can also close it down quite a bit, almost to nothing really, and you can get some really, really nice flavor. The drip tip is roomy enough to drip right through it, and since everything is surrounded by ultem here, you know, the drip tip is just encased in ultem underneath it. The outer airflow barrel has ultem inside of it. There's very, very little heat transference over to this drip tip, which is metal. And that's usually why I don't like metal drip tips, because they get really, really warm. This one really doesn't get warm at all. And I like how it has that conical shape to the bottom of it. That was a really tight draw. A lot of flavor, dense clouds. It's a flavorful RDA. It's a fun RDA to build, and I really like the ultem inner airflow sleeve a lot. I really like the way that that's done, and I'm impressed that it's not affecting the flavor. I have to say it has the potential to be a very cloudy RDA, as well as a very flavorful RDA. I feel like that is what is the emphasis though. I feel like the emphasis is on flavor. Is it the best flavor I've ever had in an RDA ever? No, but very few are. I think it's very, very good. I really like the grippiness at the top. I feel like it moves very, very smoothly, and it's very, very easy to grip here and to turn. I also really like the indicators on the sides of the ultem, the top cap, the inner airflow sleeve, how they sort of line up with the airflow holes on the inner airflow sleeve, and you can use those to gauge where the airflow is in relation to the outer airflow holes. That's pretty cool. It makes it really convenient just to look at it and know where the air is. That's awesome. The deck is easy to build on. The screws, it's a give and take with me. I think it looks really sexy with them being exposed like that. At the same time, I prefer them not to be in general. I don't like screws that are exposed. I feel like it's just asking for trouble. You know, if I wrench down too hard on that and it's just angled the wrong way, it's just easier to cross thread. Not a fan of it personally, never have been. But this one I feel like does it better than others that I've seen. So that's something at least. The drip ball is a bit small, to be honest. It's about 2.5, 3 millimeters. The thing that I really don't like, it's preventable, is this, that I have to remember I can't take off the top cap carelessly. Because if I take off the top cap, if I go to put it back down, it's not easy because it can damage that ultem top cap for one thing. And it always gets sunken in there every time I go to put it down. I don't like that. It would be so much easier just to have some sort of a stop placed inside the outer airflow adjustment, or a bit of overhang on the ultem inner airflow sleeve that it won't go down further into the outer airflow sleeve. That's the thing. That's the thing that irks me about it, and it would be such an easy thing to fix. Even the drip tip being metal, I like it because it doesn't get hot. I could care less about it being called the Skywalker or the logos on it. I don't know why we needed to go the route of possibly angering George Lucas and family, but it is what it is. I kind of wish that it was engraved on the front rather than screen printed. I'm not too concerned about the print job on the logos wearing off or anything like that. I just feel like an engraving would have been a bit nicer personally. All in all, not a bad RDA to mess around with though. Until next time, I'm your homeboy Josh. Vape on, Vapers.